Hey everyone, Pastor George here, and today I wanted to talk about something that happened last week involving, the death of the Queen. But I don't want to talk so much about her because honestly, outside of the crown, I really don't know much about Queen Elizabeth II or her importance or anything like that. So I would suggest like podcasts or something like that to figure out more about her. But one of the things I do know about the monarch in the United Kingdom, and this is why I think it's interesting, even like from our perspective, where we don't really engage with that sort of stuff, is that she served a very important religious role. Because one of the titles, as you'll see in a clip I'm about to show, that is given for the Queen or King of England and the United Kingdom of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, is Defender of the Faith. And it's really tied up in the Protestant Reformation and things like that. And so I thought it would be interesting to show that. And I think for a lot of people, even in the UK, this would be my guess, but you'd have to ask them, that they don't even kind of know, because one of the first thing that Charles II did is after ascending to the throne and giving a little speech about his mom, he then immediately said that he would support or defend the right of the Scottish Church to exist, which is probably a strange thing, because that's like it was his first order of business. And so I'm going to play that clip so you can see the oath that he takes here, and you'll see that this is language that you can tell goes back quite some time.
I understand that the law requires that I should, at my accession to the Crown, take and subscribe the oath relating to the security of the Church of Scotland. I am ready to do so at this first opportunity. I, Charles III, by the grace of God of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of my other realms and territories, King, Defender of the Faith, do faithfully promise and swear that I shall inviolably maintain and preserve the settlement of the true Protestant religion as established by the laws made in Scotland in prosecution of the claim of right, and particularly by an act intituled An Act for Securing the Protestant Religion and Presbyterian Church Government, and by the acts passed in the Parliament of both kingdoms for union of the two kingdoms, together with the government, worship, discipline, rights, and privileges of the Church of Scotland. So help me God.
So as you can see in that clip, right, he swears to uphold the Scottish Church and the Presbyterian faith in Scotland and all these other types of things. It's really interesting because, like, that was his first act as king, was to take that oath, which we probably would think is not the most relevant thing, but is really tied up a lot in British history, because one of the big things that really set up the Kingdom of England, and which would lead to the United Kingdom and the joining of Scotland to England through, well, actually, really, England joined Scotland, is the Protestant Reformation, and the fact that the Scottish Church was very different than the English Church, and how they had to deal with that, and so the monarch becomes the official head of both of the churches, but is basically beholden by vow to tell the Scottish churches that they have the freedom to do whatever they kind of want. And so it's really interesting in that way. And of course, this also means that Charles II is now head of the Anglican Communion, which is the third largest communion in the world. So that's all of the Anglican churches that were established by the British Empire. So like the church in Nigeria, church in Kenya, church in India. Like, there are other groups there, obviously, like there are Presbyterian churches in India, but the main Protestant body is the Anglican Church in India. And so he is now the head of all of that, because that is the role of the monarch. That's actually the only place I would really say that the monarch still has a lot of power in the UK, is in the Church of England, because they get to set the tone. And it's going to be really interesting because, unlike his mom, as far as I know, I'm not gonna uh, just throw complete aspersions at his face, but at his faith. But as far as I know, Charles the Third, is not as interested in Christian theology and teaching and practice as his mom was, who was pretty regular attender and churchgoer, and maybe he has become one, but that certainly wasn't his life up until this point. And so some people are in the Church of England are kind of worried that they might lose their special status, or that things are going to change quite a bit, because the monarch gets to set the theological tone, because they appoint the Bishop of Canterbury, who is the head of the Anglican Communion below, kind of the theological head, the Pope, but he's not the Pope. um, he or she, I guess, at this point, would not be the Pope. They would just be the person who is the theological head, and is direct reporter to the crown. So anyway, I think it's going to be interesting, and I think what's going to show this is his coronation, which is going to be really cool, because it's going to be the first coronation in English that we have seen since Queen Elizabeth back in the 1950s. And so we'll see what's different and what's changed. I'm sure it's going to be live streaming, and so I'm going to watch it definitely, because what you're going to see there is you're going to see a ceremony which has been done that goes back into the Middle Ages, like way into the Middle Ages, and is specifically referencing the anointing of kings in the Bible, like David and Solomon and Saul and people like that. And so I would say, even if you're not interested in this stuff, even if you think like all this caring about the royals is like, just, yeah, kind of like, weird and like paparazzi stuff, which 99% of the time it is. I think that it is interesting in this case because it has a lot to do with the faith and the history of Christianity in Europe. And so I would say check it out and see what you think. So I'll probably report back about that when the time comes. So I will see you guys next Wednesday for our Bible study recap. I'm going on vacation starting tomorrow, so I won't be putting out Theologs later this week or early next week, but I'll see you guys next Wednesday. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday, and peace out.